Oh boy. I think it's live.
I think so too.
I think we're the only one watching ourselves right now so far.
So far.
This is the downtime, like at the news anchors, when they say shit that they're not supposed to say because they think the video is.
And it ends up in the bloopers on YouTube.
Yeah. Trouble. I want to change the frame a little bit. Oh, now we're nice and even. Steven.
Mm-hmm.
See if anybody shows up.
I'm looking at you. I'm not looking at the camera.
Oh, yeah, that's fine. I mean, I think that these things will... I'm going to engage you in the camera.
I'm going to engage you in the camera, too.
Cool. I think, much like a talk show host, like a talk show would be a good format for us.
Can I just interview you?
Sure, you can ask me questions. I'm not sure how well my answer's going to come out right now. I was hoping you'd do most of the talking.
I will.
All right, good. Cause
can we call the show the Spotlight?
The Spotlight?
Yeah.
What's the Spotlight?
It's punny. Yeah, like the spotlight. Spotlight.
Yeah, Spotlight. My name.
Oh, you're like a skylight in the dark of the black cafe.
Yeah.
That's right. You are. You are a fucking ball of energy, man.
Listen, we don't know what groups are going to be watching.
That's true. But it has been really cool to work with you. Like I just I've worked with Richie and Rick, by ambassadors for so long. We all know each other's, what we're gonna say before we say it and all that. And so you just brought this awesome improv, just make it happen. Just raise the energy of the room. Everybody's just cracking. It was good. And I was like, yeah, one gun recognizes another gun.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah.
So why don't you tell us the idea of Blind Cafe experience, where it came from?
All right. Yeah, sure. So how did Blind Cafe get started?
You avoided this question in the last interview.
I know, because I vomit a little bit in my mouth every time I get asked that question. No, I'm just kidding. I'm wicked proud of what we do and why we do it and what we've been doing. So I decided I would, in 2006, I had been going to university called Naropa in Boulder, and I was training as a songwriter and musician and performing artist. And I was doing a show every 3 months or so, and I get so excited about the show, and I put so much energy into it. And then I get up on stage, and I'd be so nervous, and my hands would clamp up, and I couldn't. I can only barely hold a pick. It took me to the 5th song before I could finally relax, and I was get used to being on stage because I didn't have consistent experience. Mm-hmm. And I heard this Tony Robbins story where he talks about how he learned 2 years of public speaking in 3 months. And he'd set up 3 speaking gigs a day, and if he couldn't find somebody to have officially listen to him, he'd stop people on the street and do it. And he became seasoned, and he submerged himself. And so I thought, I got to learn how to perform more consistently. And I found out about these things called house concerts, where people take their living room, turn it into a little concert hall. The artists come perform, and sometimes the hosts will bring guests. And but I thought, wouldn't it be more interesting if I went to Europe? And I already traveled across the United States so many times. So I thought it would be more interesting. So I decided to set up a tour across Ireland. I went to my buddy John, and I was like, hey, John, do you want to go on a tour in Ireland or something? Or somewhere around the world or something? And he's like, yeah, let's go to Ireland. And I was like, great. So I went online and I looked up Ireland. First thing was his website, and it described all 42 castles across Scotland and Ireland. And I was like, let's go play in a castle. And so I just wrote each one of them a personal email. And one of them said yes.
Wow. Only one?
Well, there actually was 2.
Mm-hmm.
Well, one was technically a castle, and one was an English garden or something. Mm-hmm. And I ended up going for 6 weeks all across Ireland and playing in people's living rooms. I set up at one street, one set of shows. I had 10 shows in a row in people's living rooms. And so, I don't know, I remember it was the 7th day in a row, I got up in front of the living room. I was like, I've done this already. And then I ended up doing several more tours across Europe. And when I was in Reykjavik, Iceland in 2006, I went to go say hi to this Icelandic girl. and she had this. She was outside of a building, and she had this table in front of her, and on the table was like these little cards, laminated cards with Braille printed on them, and Icelandic words. And I was like, "What's this?" And she's like, "Oh, it's a cafe in the dark." I was like, "What?" She's like, "Yeah, and all the waiters are playing this. No way." I was like, "How do I do this? What do I do?" And she's like, "Oh, well," she's like, "You got to buy whatever you want, right, out here, pay for it, and then give the little card with Braille on it, and then give it to the waiter in the dark." And I was like, "Okay." So she led me over to this entrance doorway with all this fabric, and she opened up the fabric and she started pushing me into the dark hallway. And I was like, wait, how do I find my seat? And she's like, "Oh, waiter will find you." She's like, "Here, take this cane." So she gave me a cane. I never met a blind person. Think about it. I've only seen it on TV with cane.
Here, make it work.
Right? So I just like, and kind of banging it up against the sides of the hallway all the way down. It's getting darker and darker. And I get this other doorway. And I open up that doorway, and it's like 100% dark. And it's like a wall of sound. Just, it was intense. Everybody's chatting away in Icelandic, dishes clanking everywhere. And I had that like really fearful, almost like jumping in the freezing cold water. You're like, then you relax. And I was like, okay, I can do this. And so I made my way into the room using the cane. And I can tell that I'm banging up against the bottom of somebody's chairs or something. And I'm like, "Are there any extra chairs?" And they're like, "We don't know." Like, yeah, that's kind of a good point.
So that experience was the catalyst for the blind cafe experience here in the U.S.?
To a certain extent, like the darkness and the community, creating a community experience using darkness as a way to like break down this, and interrupt the social, kind of conditions that we all have.
So you mentioned you'd never seen any blind people before. So how did you find them once you decided you wanted to do this?
Well, at first I sat with the idea for about 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
And then every once in a while I'd tell somebody about my experience, and I'd be like, and I went to Naropa, which is like a Tibetan Buddhist inspired college.
Mm-hmm.
So really learning how to stay present with whatever's showing up for you, whether it's uncomfortable neurosis, or just really learning how to be present with yourself. And the more we can be present with our own stuff, the more we can then be in service of other people.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm a musician. I write music, and I was like, I wonder if I could what would it be like to perform in the dark? Would I be able to let go with more vulnerability, without feeling so self-conscious on stage? And would people be able to feel music like on a deeper level? Would they be able to, if they feel emotionally moved, could they just fully cry? Because nobody's, there's that saying like dance like nobody's watching, which you can do actually. Mm-hmm. And so I figured I'd do a concert and maybe, do the food as well. And I also felt like, I wonder if the blind community, would be interested in this, or would they, judge me for my idea or whatever. So, but I thought, like, why not, have a social cause? I mean, really, I want to. I've always had a passion for putting camping trips together, or like creating experiences with people, all come together and really like share with each other and start to reveal themselves and also be listened to. And when that happens, there's something inside of us that I think that really gets recognized that we don't really have on a regular basis.
So now you've sat with the idea 3 years.
Yep.
Now you decide you want to do it. Now where do you find the blind people?
Well, you make it sound like, oh, go find the blind people. Where do I find some blind people? That's what I did. I screamed into the street.
To a degree, that's what it is. You had to reach out somewhere, somebody.
Yeah. Okay. So
you didn't know anyone.
I was in a class at Naropa, and it was like a diversity education class. And Ruth Harrington, who is a blind woman, who was a Naropa student, that I had seen around and kind of knew her a bit that year that we decided to do Blind Cafe, and I shared my story of going into the dark and realizing that in the dark I didn't know what the people looked like. I didn't know if they were younger than me or taller than me or shorter than me, so I didn't have all these reactions. I could guess that they were just, Icelandic white and had blonde hair.
Mm-hmm.
It's only 300,000 people in Iceland, but and I thought, that was a really interesting experience, meeting people and not having all those preconceptions. It was like involuntary, just dialogue, like taking over.
Mm-hmm.
And then like Bruce came up to me afterwards and she was like, "Rosh, this is a cool idea. You got to do this." And I was really nervous. I thought that I'd be judged, and I didn't know anything about blindness, and I knew that I didn't want to create a blind organization. I just wanted to help myself and others just feel connected and less disconnected. And I wanted to find ways to bring community together and help them connect. And so she introduced me to Jerry Leary and Rick Kingman. And Rick wanted to do spoken word poetry, and then Jerry was a car mechanic for 40 years.
Mm-hmm.
And then he also owned a coffee shop. And Rick and Jerry were met with
both
me.
Blind also?
Yeah, so Jerry's got no sight whatsoever. He doesn't even have any kind that sense is just not there. And Rick has a little bit of sight, and Rick's just this awesome artist person. And so they were like, let's go to the chapter. It was the National Federation for the Blind and Older.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and so we met with the chapter. They didn't like the idea.
Mm.
They actually poo-pooed it. They were afraid that it would create more distance between, more misunderstanding, or make everybody be all afraid of blindness. And I was bummed. I was like, oh man, all right, well. And then we get out in the street, and Jerry and Rick looked at me, and they were just like, fuck that. They're like, let's do this. This is cool. I was like, all right, yeah. So we went ahead and did it, and this other woman, oh my God, what's her name? She was the head of the guide dog puppy raising group in Boulder, and she rallied and got puppies there, and then we did our first blind cafe. 2 nights, we sold out 48 seats, both nights in a row. I think we charged $20. Everybody volunteered, nobody got paid. My friend Marcus, he's an amazing chef. He got his parents sent persimmons up from Oklahoma. And he made that persimmon bread pudding, and it was awesome. And I got my band, and we rehearsed in the dark, and then we came up with the idea of the Q&A, and Rick did some poetry, and people loved it. And we brought that money and we gave it to the guide dog puppy raising group.
So I have a number of other questions, but first I gotta know, what does a persimmon taste like?
I don't remember. You guys know?
Is it a fruit?
Persimmon fruit?
Is it like a
fig? I think it's a strange grapefruit / citrus thing.
We'll research later.
Okay.
About how many blind cafes have you done to this point, you think, if you had to guess?
I did count how many guests we had who had attended,
mm-hmm.
And it was over 20,000.
Over 20,000 people have attended.
Yeah, and that was about a year and a half ago.
A year and a half ago.
Yeah.
Wow.
So the first year, I think we did 5 2 or 3 day weekends,
mm-hmm.
and then back then I was putting 140 people in the dark. That was just not a good idea.
Mm.
But you don't know that until you do it,
mm-hmm.
right?
Sometimes.
And
there's a rumor going around you did it actually 7 times.
Did it 7 times?
Yeah.
In the first year?
I mean, that's just the word on the street. What do I know?
I don't know. I mean, I'm counting weekends.
Okay.
So I always see a blind cafe as a multi-day experience.
What's the one blind cafe experience that stands out to you the most? It always makes you laugh, or always make you introspective, or what have you? What's that one? The first one?
Actually, it's the reason we're here right now in
mm-hmm.
Austin, Texas, in June, where ticket sales are traditionally really low. Is 2 years ago in 2016, the Yali African Fellows program or group over at the University of Austin, Texas. How do I talk? So I think there's 26 young entrepreneurs in their 20s from 18 different countries in
mm-hmm.
Africa, and they each won some kind of awards to come out here mm-hmm. and do these studies for 6 weeks at the University of Austin. And they actually came to one of our public events a couple of years ago, and it was so beautiful to have like an international perspective, and it cracked me open, and they all just come from different worlds than we do, and it's just some really, really interesting and profound questions. And then after the darkness experience, we all went upstairs into the light, into a different room, and we circled up. We're going to do it tomorrow night when they come back. And we did a little debrief. And each one of them went around and shared what their experience was. And I was just sobbing. It was beautiful. And there was this one kid. It was like he's telling us about like he's like I'm the first in 20 people in my family, which I never quite understood what it meant, to go to college. And he's like, everybody's always watching me. He's like, I have no freedom. They're always judging me. Always like pushing me to do everything right and not do things wrong. And he's like, in the dark, he's like, I was free for the first time. And he's like, and he demonstrated, got on the floor, and he's like, in the dark, I got on the floor, nobody says anything. I stand on my chair, nobody says anything. And it was just like this, I felt like one of those like emotional movie scenes, really. And there's some other things that were said, and then at the end, they asked me to go get the guitar and sing that song, The Light, with them, and then we all danced and sang The Light upstairs in the light. It was, I was in tears, and I was just like, this is why I do this. This is why, like, there's a big enough why to like pull off.
So like keep on doing it.
Yeah, exactly.
So tell me what it is you hope that people. So that seemed like a very specific experience.
Yeah.
What generally do you hope that people get from the Blind Cafe experience? What do you hope? I know everybody's experience is going to be a little different, but there's one consistent thing that you hope the majority of the people would get from the Blind Cafe experience. What would it be?
I hope they get at least, a little bit of time where they can let go of like all the responsibility and all the craziness of being alive, and just feel present again, feel alive, feel like excited and kind of hopeful, and like almost like wow, like curiosity, like there's this. A lot of them starts to really maybe open up and get a little bit of vulnerability, and sometimes that can feel a little fearful. But once you get past that, there's this opening that
Can I say something about that?
Yeah,
I'm gonna cry because that's me.
You want to sit?
No.
okay.
I'm good. What happened to me? The first time I got in touch with myself and never let go. The experience of being in the dark was so great. Yeah. I never let go. I'm still with that since the first time I did it. And it gives me so much peace. It gives me freedom.
Yeah.
Since the first time I done it, I never let go. And whenever I have a problem, an issue, or sometimes, I remember that I go into the dark. Even that, I have my eyes open and everything.
Yeah.
And I go into the dark, and it calms myself. And somehow it shows me the way of wherever I need to go. It's awesome. It's awesome.
Oh my God.
I love it.
You've never shared? I've never heard this before.
Talked to you
Yeah.
about that.
Wow. Was there a moment in the experience that really that you can recall? Like was it during the music or the Q&A where you really felt like open up?
Just
being in the dark?
On the Q&A, just hearing the other blind people that were there, and listening to their experience. Some people, I mean, they lost their sight and all that. And just imagine how to be another person, you know, because I mean that's the way that I took it, you know. How I have to be someone else that is more real.
You can tell the people who that is talking.
Yeah, I was going to do that. To Mario. Guys, this is Mario, and Mario is like pretty much like my favorite people on the whole Blind Cafe universe. He's been taking care of the American Legion now for over the American Legion here in Austin, Texas, where we've been doing our Blind Cafe for the last 3 or 4 years or so, I guess. And he lives in this building, takes care of this building, and also runs like a construction company. You've always been this amazing force for good in the world with us, and I look forward to coming down to Austin. I'm raving about you to everybody.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
Oh, awesome.
And
Great to know that. I never shared with you, man, and I mean, I never let go since the first time, so I appreciate you.
Well, thank you for sharing, Mario.
Yeah,
I appreciate that.
I didn't know you were recording this, but
that,
I thought you were just talking, you know.
So I guess Mario answered the question what we were hoping, what you thought people would get from the experience. If they had an experience, I guess in general, then the Blind Cafe served its purpose, would you say?
yeah, I think so. And I think there's just some level of expanding our awareness of ourselves and how we relate to others and to ourselves and others. That's what I hope for, and whether it's the music or the Q&A or all of that, or the food or the socializing, or just being brave enough to enter the darkness and have all those feelings come up and stay present with it and move past it. I just there's this feeling of like lighting people up, you know, and funny enough, we light people up by hanging out in the dark.
Putting them in the dark.
Yeah, you know, and it's this has definitely been my marching orders from the universe. I was just making darkness back there. Like, I haven't been making darkness for a long time. We've always had somebody helping with the darkness, and but it felt good to work with the duct tape. But I started, like, my mind started getting a little negative because I'm a little exhausted, and I was just like, but then I just came back to, I was like, actually, no, there's nothing negative here. I'm following my marching orders, and my marching orders right now says make darkness, and be the guy to do that and really own that role again, and almost like transform it, or like see how I can, because as things have grown, we've had to have people come do different parts of the Blind Cafe, and so I've had to let go and of those, trying to pull off those parts. Not that I did it well in the first place, but yeah, I'm just incredibly grateful. Thank you, Mario. I gotta give you a hug, buddy.
We're at 23.
So, Rosh, thank you for sharing your experience for the very first TBCE network interview for the Blind Cafe experience. Thank you, Mario, for joining us. I'm Garrick Scott, and we hope you all have enjoyed this. Stay tuned. There will be plenty more to get to know the Blind Cafe experience staff. Hope you all enjoy. Talk to you later.
Sorry to crush your party.
No,
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 Mario.
fantastic.
Crash the party anytime.
I mean, that's what